next on 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Ryan O'Neill.
And live with two guests this morning on Newsmaker. In segment one, it's Democrat Assembly candidate Barbara Baer. In segment two, it'll be Republican Assembly candidate Marjorie Byrnes. First, welcoming Democrat candidate Barbara Baer.
Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
Doing well, and yourself?
Good.
Well, Barbara Baer, the top story on EmpireReportNewYork.com this morning, the site that looks like the Drudge Report. EmpireReportNewYork.com has a big picture of Assemblyman Joe Arrigo at the top. It says, Assemblyman hit with bribery charges. Underneath that headline, it says, who is the lobbyist? Who is the other Assembly member? So there were two unnamed suspects besides Arrigo in the story that the FBI sent out yesterday from the U.S. Attorney's Office. It said a lobbyist and another assemblyman were involved in this alleged bribe scheme that is definitely ending the political career for Assemblyman Joe Arrigo. I had heard that he was going to try to run on another line. It doesn't look like it's going to work out that way at this point.
Well, he's still on the two lines, Brian. I mean, try to run. He's got two lines. He's got the independent and the reform line. So he can't just get off the... maybe he can go to court and petition that he get off. But there's lots of indicted folks who are running. One of them is in Livingston County, Congressman Collins. So indictment does not mean that you can't run.
Okay. Thanks for the correction there, Democrat Assembly candidate Barbara Baer. What was your reaction when the news came down yesterday?
I was appalled and shocked and angry. And I think that this district has been ill-served for years. And I talked to a lot of voters. They're very honest. And I think they're looking for some honest, decent representation, and we haven't gotten it. I mean, I was the Democratic candidate during the NOJ episode, and now here I am again. I really got into the race 2 years ago to debate whomever the Republican conservative candidate was about real issues, and I don't think the public ever gets to hear the issues. I think if the public understood the issues, they wouldn't vote for any of these folks.
Yeah, it was quite shocking. I saw earlier in the day, it was around 10, 11, maybe noon yesterday, that there was going to be a press conference that the U.S. Attorney's Office was going to hold in the city of Rochester, and that James B. Kennedy, the U.S. Attorney, was going to give a press conference. But I never expected it to be Assemblyman Joe Arrigo. This is the kind of thing that you hear about in New York City all the time, but this is more of a new development for upstate New York in the last few years to keep getting hit with corruption charges.
Yeah, maybe upstate's catching up New York. That's pretty bad. You know, as far as the charges go, first of all, innocent to proven guilty.
There's
always a presumption of innocence. But he does seem to have said that he did take a bribe. There's a bigger story here, Brian. Who is Assembly men or Assembly person A? Who's the lobbyist? I don't have a clue.
Yeah, and I was kind of surprised that the U.S. Attorney's Office did not include that information. Barbara, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's a bigger scandal going on, and we'll hear about it soon. I don't think that the attorney... the U.S. Attorney's Office can walk away with having dropped one bomb without completing the sort of act. So I think there's more to come. I think it'll be pretty awful. I don't know who it is. And I know that this district has been in a sort of tumultuous tsunami for several years. And again, there's a lot of good things that could happen in this district, and they're not happening. And I really, for me, I think it's about day one of the rest of the election. And I just want to tell everybody that Marge Byrnes has not won the election. And, I intend to run a very competitive race, and I am an honorable person and a moderate, and I think we need to really look at what's happened. And we also need to look at what it means to be a conservative. I mean, part of the Conservative Party agenda, and Joe Arrigo had a 92% rating, was that he voted against women having an equal pay. So I intend to go through this election talking about the issues and talking about what farmers and what small businesses could use. And I don't think we've been served by any of these folks.
Talking with Democrat Assembly candidate Barbara Baer. We reached out to Marjorie Byrnes as well. Heard back from her. She's going to be on at about a quarter of or so here on the Newsmaker show. Barbara Baer and Marjorie Byrnes, the two candidates running for the Assemblyman Joe Arrigo seat. Barbara Baer, what are the two lines that Arrigo is still on again?
The independent and reform.
Independent and reform. Barbara Baer, excuse me, I was looking at Marjorie's name. Barbara Baer, anything else going on in the campaign at the moment? How is your campaign for state assembly going?
Oh, it's going very well. I didn't really start campaigning or raising money until after the primary because I wanted to see what the primary results would be. And so now I have a narrative. Even before this bribery charge, obviously the incumbent would not be the main character in the race, shall we say. And then now we know it's Marjorie Byrnes. And frankly, Marjorie Byrnes got 3,500 votes or so to win the Republican primary. And she bought the conservative line. You ought to ask her about that. So she's gotten 3,500 votes to date, and I don't think that's necessarily a winning number. So I look forward to engaging in a very challenging and hopefully competitive race. Again, there are really issues here, and all of this is a smokescreen to the fact that if one is in the minority party and can only go to Albany and vote no, then you can't bring home anything for the district. Just recently, Dansville lost a $10 million grant to Penn Yan. It would have been a great development grant for Dansville, for a main street, for mixed-use housing, for lots of things. There's nobody in Albany fighting for this district. People go down there and vote no because they're in the minority party. And a person in the majority who's got some common sense, me, would vote for the people of this district. That's what needs to happen. People are suffering in this district. Too many people I meet have to work 2 jobs to have some standard of living. 2 jobs. This economy for this district is not in this high economic growth. And so I'm saying, basically, as a person of the majority party, I would go to Albany and represent all of us. I would fight for this district, and I would get some legislation passed, whether it's seniors or for children or for farmers. And by the way, there's no one from this district on the agricultural committee. I mean, as a majority person, I could be on the agricultural committee and help. But just going down and voting no, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked for years. Arrigo was in for 10 years, and then NoJ took over. Lots of bluster, lots of blah, 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 no results. So I ask people to think about it.
Are there any debates scheduled yet between yourself, Barbara Baer, and your Republican opponent, Marjorie Byrnes?
Well, I've asked Marjorie if she would come to Dansville, and that would be a forum, a visit. There's a forum in Geneseo on the 17th for all candidates, but it's not a debate. There happens to be a radio show on tomorrow, which I'm not sure is in down as far as Hornell, but we're both on the show, and I welcome that. It will be the first time I've had an opportunity.
And what station will that be?
It's WXXI, Evan Dawson. I don't know, is that broadcast in Horn?
I don't think their signal makes it, but people could get, I'm sure they could hear it live or archived online.
Yeah, Marjorie promised to have loads of debates, and I'd like to debate her every night. I mean, the people need to understand what they're voting for, and they should be voting for the best interests of themselves. Whatever they are, if the best interests are what I reflect, good. If they're what Marjorie reflects, good. It's a democracy. It's really important. And let me tell you one more thing, Brian. With regard to the state legislatures, this can be much more important because there's lots of sort of uncertainty in the federal government about federal funding for loads of things and about issues. And whomever your state legislature your state legislative person is going to be much more important. And the person needs to reflect your views. I think the voters of this district are very intelligent, and frankly, I think sometimes the politicians dumb it all down to 30-second bites. There are serious issues here about women, about health, about pay, about driving the economy up. Main streets across from Hornell to Pittsford need to be revitalized. That's how we keep the millenniums here. That's how we grow jobs. It's not happening. So I think it's time for a change.
oath that I hired a campaign consultant, paid him what experts told me was the going rate, and reported it on my campaign finance reports. I did everything you're supposed to do, and I absolutely welcome any inquiry. I know that it's nothing. And Mr. Arrigo, when he made this allegation, he was either lying to somehow protect himself or somehow attempt to hurt my campaign. It didn't work. I won the Republican primary overwhelmingly because I've been knocking on doors, talking to people. They've met me. They're getting to know me. And they know that when I was a Monroe County assistant DA, a judge, even law clerk to Judge Cohen in Livingston County. I mean, my whole life has been a public book. And, I've been very, very proud and continue to be proud of the way I've conducted myself, both publicly and privately, in my life.
Talking now with Republican Assembly candidate Marjorie Byrnes from Livingston County, running for the Joe Arrigo's seat in the state assembly. We talked with Barbara Baer in the last segment about debates and forums that are coming up, and Barbara Byrnes messed up the names there. Barbara Baer. Barbara Baer said that there would be a some kind of event tomorrow on WXXI. Is that true?
Yes, tomorrow at noon on WXXI Radio. We also have a forum set up at SUNY at Geneseo on the 17th. And I think there's also a healthcare forum coming up in the afternoon within the next week or two. So there's at least 3 separate events that we're both going to be at and explaining to the voters what our positions are on various issues.
What do you think the differences are between yourself, Marjorie Byrnes, and Democrat Barbara Baer?
Well, I think they're pretty significant from a policy standpoint. I am a conservative Republican, and I will bring forth a Republican and very conservative agenda to Albany. I care very much about the Second Amendment rights and protecting the rights of responsible gun owners. I absolutely believe that the SAFE Act has been harmful to responsible gun owners, and she feels the exact opposite. She feels that the SAFE Act has had no impact whatsoever on good, responsible gun owners, and I and all the members at all the sportsmen's clubs feel dramatically different. So I do think that there's going to be a number of very serious issues that we're going to discuss with very different opinions on how our government should work.
And talking here in segment 2 on the Newsmaker show with Republican candidate for State Assembly Marjorie Byrnes. Marjorie, how do you think that this new accusation against Republican Assemblyman Joe Arrigo will affect the upcoming vote there on Tuesday, November 6th? Do you think it'll get people energized and want to get out there, or maybe the opposite, cause some discouragement and voter apathy? How do you think that's going to work out?
I'm not ultimately sure that it's going to have much of an impact anyway. Mr. Arrigo at this point is only on 2 minor party lines. I have the Republican and the conservative endorsement, Ms. Baer, the Democrat, and 2 other minor party endorsements. And I think when people go to vote, they're going to be very energized to vote for. If they vote for her, then what they want is a very liberal, progressive, Cuomo person to support Cuomo in his agenda for the state, or they're going to come out and they're going to want someone who's willing to speak up for the small farms, the small businesses, the sportsmen, and they're going to want me. And like I said, I'm pretty confident that by the end of the evening on the 6th of November, that I will be the Assemblywoman-elect.
Down to the last couple of minutes with Republican Assembly candidate Marjorie Byrnes. Marjorie, did you have any final thoughts? And included in that question, the big issues for you in this Assembly district going into the November election?
Absolutely. The biggest issues are fighting against taxes and against a lot of unnecessary regulations which are strangling our businesses and causing them to close or leave the state, and then they take our jobs and our tax base with them. That's number one. We've got school safety and what I believe is the need for armed school resource officers in every school at state expense, because not every district can afford it, and all children need to be protected. That's one of the few areas I do think that the state has the obligation, and also to protect the Second Amendment rights for our good citizens who need someone to stand up for them. This state has so many issues and so many problems, but if I had to choose three, as we're talking here right now, those are them.
Marjorie Byrnes, we're out of time. I want to thank you so much for coming on live this morning.
It's great to talk to you, and I hope we talk again very soon.
Thank you. It's AM 1480 WLEA Hornell. Stay with us for the Brian Kilmeade Show.